Hi guys, Brook here, coming to you live from Essex in the United Kingdom. I wanted to let viewers on this channel know that I've recently become involved in a new podcast called Religion Zero, of which I'm a panelist. It covers topics in the church from the various branches of the church, which includes the Protestant, the Catholic, as well as the Eastern Orthodox branches. And we discuss various, scriptures, cultural issues, matters concerning to red pill masculinity, and other such topics. It's only been 3 episodes thus far. If you're interested in that kind of thing, please, just look up Religion Zero. I believe I have a playlist on this channel if you're interested in that. It actually cycles between various channels. So it starts with our friend Corey. It's gone to my other channel, not this one, as well as more recently it was on the 10K Rum podcast channel. And eventually when our friend Bobby gets his channel up, it will also go to his. So I have a playlist on mine as well as on the 10K Rum if you want to follow along and, leave some questions, come and view us live and put your comments in. Now, in our last discussion, we were fortunate enough to have Rollo Tomassi come onto the stream as the topic of the day was the red pill in the scriptures. And Rollo Tomassi is, of course, the author of the Rational Male series, probably the foremost expert on the red pill. So we were very excited to have him on the show. And we wanted to give him a lot of time to make his points. And a lot of things were touched on kind of briefly in those discussions that we did not really get a chance to expand upon because it is a very broad topic. So I wanted to do this video somewhat as an appendix to help some of the viewers from that show kind of point them in a direction if it is that they want to know more about some of these topics and, kind of address some of the questions that I've been getting privately concerning that episode. Now, a very interesting point was raised by our friend Bobby in the conversation when he quoted a scripture out of the Book of Sirach. And some people were kind of like, what the heck is the Book of Sirach, right? And what a lot of people would not know about the Christian tradition is that the various branches of the church actually have a different number of Bibles included within their canon. The Hebrew Bible, for instance, only has 24 books. They will combine First and Second Kings, for instance, or First and Second Samuel into one book, hence the low number. The Protestant Bible, of course, breaks those up and including all of the New Testament writings to give us a grand total of 66. The Catholic Church has 73, which includes books like the Book of Sirach or the Book of Wisdom, as well as many others. The Greek Orthodox or the Eastern Orthodox has 78. The Slavic Orthodox has 78 as well, although it's a different number of different books than the Greek Orthodox. And the Ethiopian Orthodox, I believe, has 81. So they definitely come out ahead in terms of the number of books. Now, the Apocryphal or the Deuterocanonical books are in contention. And personally for me, I have a lot of issues building any kind of doctrine or pulling any kind of spiritual guidance from these books. I definitely see them as aiding in the historical understanding of a lot of events that take place in the time, especially in the book of Maccabees with the Maccabees revolt and stuff like that. But these books have always been contentious. Needless to say, the Jews have rejected most of the apocryphal writings. They don't include it in their Bible. Even the Catholic Church, Jerome, the church father, he did not accept it. Origen did not accept it. Cyril of Jerusalem, as well as Athanasius, these within the first 4 centuries of the church, none of them quoted any of these texts to be inspired and did not include them in their depiction of what would be inspired. It wasn't until the Council of Trent, 1546, that the Catholic Church kind of universally accepted these books, much to be in response to the Protestant Reformation that was taking place. So these books kind of became scripture by decree at this council. And I'm not trying to rain on anybody's faith tradition by saying that. But personally for me, there are a couple of internal problems, like the Book of Tobit talks about being able to use magic. Maccabees talks about, giving money for the sins of the dead and some things that actually run contrary to what we know to be canon in the more authorized books of the Bible. However, there is definitely some wisdom within these books, as Bobby quoted from the Book of Sirach. I think it's chapter 26. There's an entire verse about women and men and how a cantankerous woman can definitely be draining on a man's ability to live a peaceful life. I don't necessarily think that takes any grand knowledge or revelation. I think that's everyday wisdom, but it's definitely true. So I appreciated him bringing that up. A lot of people were confused by that. Yeah, for me, I pull my doctrine from the 66 books of the Protestant Bible, but I have a lot of respect and understanding the historical significance of a lot of these additional writings. Another fascinating topic that was raised by Rollo Tomassi was when he asked about the myth about the character of Lilith. And for some people, they've never heard this name before, and they're like, who the heck is Lilith? This is a Jewish tradition, a myth that believes that Lilith was actually Adam's first wife. It's a very interesting evolution. We don't exactly know the origins of this story. It seems to go all the way back to the ancient Samaria, about 2000 BC, and it's found in the writings of Gilgamesh. But the character evolved throughout the ages. So at the time of Gilgamesh, it was a title given to kind of all female demons, such as, incubus and succubus and stuff. They were considered to be Liliths. Eventually became, it went from a class of demons down to a single woman. And then more recently in the Babylonian Talmud, the Eruvin and the Nida, as well as the medieval Talmud, we actually get a couple depictions of Lilith, including the story itself, which kind of goes along the lines that, she was sent to Adam, she rebelled, eventually she went out to the Red Sea and she consummated and had children with a demon. And then, Adam complained to God, God sent the angels after her, and she did not want to return. And God punished her by killing off all the demon children at a very high rate. And it's kind of unclear at that point. I think there tends to be an association with her that she's still alive and she's supposed to care for the children, or she's young children are vulnerable to the effects of Lilith up until they're circumcised, or for girls up to the 12th day or something. And again, that shows that there's a lot of Jewish influence on this, because we know circumcision and these other things are not recounted in the Genesis narrative. But it's an interesting study. A lot of people are unaware of it. I thought it would be fun to kind of raise that. I mean, nobody has full understanding on this, of course. We don't really see much of it, in the ancient sources. There's also the Aramaic bowls. There are a couple stories of Lilith confronted by, I think, the prophet Elijah, and she's going to torture or possess the baby of a pregnant woman, and Elijah binds her and stuff like that. There's a very interesting study. So not exactly something that's canonical, not exactly something to pull doctrine from, but yeah, it's a piece of biblical history, mythology that I think is, for those who might be interested, you could probably look into it more. If you have some insight into it, I'll be happy to hear what your views are. You could always put some comments below. So the last topic that I want to kind of touch on is something that my friend Amos Joe asked in response to something Rollo Tomassi said about like the New World paradigm. And he asked if that had to do with the New Covenant and the Old Covenant. And this is a fascinating topic that a lot of Christians are just not aware of, that the Bible can be viewed as God's covenantal history with mankind. So we had the Adamic covenant in the Garden of Eden. We went into the Noahic. Is it Noahic? Well, the covenant with Noah as not to flood the earth again. I don't know if Noahic is the right word. The Abrahamic covenant, into the covenant of Moses that was made between God and the nation of Israel exclusively, into what we have now, which is the new covenant. Now, this is what we call it. I call it covenant theology. Our friend Corey calls it, we're now living in the age of fulfillment, where prior to the death of Christ, it was the Mosaic age. I'm sure that's the term he would use. Of course, he can correct me if that's not his language. But it shows that God's behavior with mankind and individuals is going to be different depending on the covenant of which he's operating under. So the Mosaic economy, for instance, was very easy to understand. Obey the rules, be blessed. Disobey the rules, be cursed, or, stoned to death, as the case might be. And it was culminated that all of their disobedience would eventually be punished. We see that predicted in the Song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32. And I believe fulfilled in the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, which marked the end of the Mosaic economy. Now, contrary to that, the new covenant actually begins at the cross of Jesus Christ. So I ask most people, where does the new covenant begin? And they flip to the section between Malachi and the book of Matthew, and they think this is the beginning of the new covenant. But the writer of Hebrews actually makes it quite clear that in order for there to be a testament or a covenant, there must be a death of the testator. So without, even the first covenant, which was with Moses, Moses sprinkle the people with blood. There had to be the shedding of blood for the covenant. So we don't get that at the birth of Jesus. We get that at the death of Jesus, which is controversial because a lot of people don't like the idea that, yes, everything that Jesus did in his earthly ministry was under the old covenant. And well, I mean, it gets even more controversial to that, but I'm not going to get into those details about his earthly ministry and these other things. But the new covenant actually begins at the cross. And, in the book of Corinthians, Paul goes on to write that, the new covenant has come, and that which is old and fading, which is the old covenant, it's fading away and ready to be done away with, which I believe culminated in the destruction of the temple. So from the death of Christ in around circa 33 AD to the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, the two covenants coexisted. One was shrinking in the earth, culminating in the fulfillment of all of the judgments and all of the prophecies and all of the requirements of the law leading to the destruction of the temple, while the new covenant at the cross of Jesus Christ was expanding in the earth. And again, yeah, that might be a very new concept for some people, and there's a lot to be said on that. There's a lot to unpack on that in terms of audiences, how the Jews received the new covenant versus how the Gentiles received the new covenant, forgiveness if you're a Jew transitioning from one to the other versus if you're a Gentile. There's a lot to be said on that. But the basic premise that I wanted to get across in this video, if somebody's interested in exploring this idea further, is covenantal theology, that there is a difference the way God will treat different groups of people depending on the covenant of which they're under. So that might be a very new concept. Maybe we'll get into it in the show. I don't know. I've done a lot of work on that. I'll probably, if you're interested, I'll do something a little more in depth. I've definitely written a lot about it on my blog. Of course, you can check below and you will see links to that. So guys, this is my appendix to Religion Zero, number 3, that is found on the 10K Rum podcast website. I will put, of course, a card. Where's the card? The card will be over there. If you want to go and watch the whole episode, of course, you can leave comments, questions. Please subscribe to my channel as well as to the channels that will be cycling this through. I'll put links to everybody's channel below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Take care.